Sometimes it's kind of hard for me to spit it from the soul, knowing this music business is politically controlled. Coming from where we from, the triple threat is all we know. Shoot the jumper, you pass it, or you take it to the hole. They say them New York boys dribble too much. Will we make it or will we die? That's a riddle to us, but the same rules apply. You forget them, you learn them over. There's nothing they can do when we press them, they turn it over. It's all timing, let's get it back to rhyming. This microwave music, these microwave diamonds. If everybody do what he says, they all Simons. Must I remind you, careful who you lying to. Before they go fund you, they gon' have to go find you. 3-point play off the lay, good from the line too. Built different, my DNA shows who I'm signed to. Yeah.
Talk about it.
You are now tuned in to Above the Rim.
Hoops Talk for the street.
Family, what's good? Welcome back to another edition of Above the Rim. Hoops Talk for the streets. You already know how we do, family. Brought to you as always. It's your host, Justin, aka Just Blaze. Family, you know the drill. To get in contact with me, we can always hit me up and follow me on Twitter at JustBlaze_513. On IG at JustBlaze513. On Facebook, search Above the Rim Podcast. Also, email the show as well. Above the Rim NBA Podcast at gmail.com. Family, tap in and lead the family a voicemail. The line is always open. 908-718-1592. If you want to support the show, as always, cop your merch, family. You know it's love. Make sure you're using that new merch promo code I said on the last episode as well. ATR new 20% off all merchandise, any item. Go in there, cop, show some love, all of that good stuff. Anything and everything is appreciated as always. Leave your boy a review on iTunes and Spotify. Of course, check the YouTube page as well for the visuals. Make sure you give me a like and subscribe on the YouTube as well. Let's get right into it, man. I had the Western Conference preview last episode. Let's get to the East. East is kind of sticky too. I said Escobar season has returned, and it has, okay? Especially in the East. Eastern Conference edition preview. Let's get right into it, man. Let's go to the Eastern Conference teams. First up on my list, burning questions for each Eastern Conference team. First up on my list, the Philadelphia 76ers. My question for the Philadelphia 76ers. Is James Harden going to turn it back up this season? Listen, the Philadelphia 76ers, they need James Harden to turn it up this year, okay? I know some people think they need a little bit less James Harden, but I actually think they need a little bit more. And when I say we need a little bit more from him, it's in terms of leadership, in terms of guidance, in terms of showing up when it matters most. That's what we need from James Harden this year. Last year in the postseason, he only averaged 18 points, 40% shooting, and 12 playoff games. That's unacceptable for James Harden. I feel like, to me, like James Harden packed it up last year in the postseason once Joel Embiid got hurt. Once he had the little orbital, I think it was an orbital fracture, whatever it was, he basically packed it in at that point. And that's not the James Harden that they need this season, because there are high hopes and high dreams for the 76ers. I said one of my episodes back, I feel like they won the offseason, and I believe that. I believe that the Philadelphia 76ers had the best offseason of any team pretty much. Neck and neck with them and the Cavs probably, but what James Harden gives the 76ers in the postseason and in crucial moments is really what's going to put them over the top. I already know what Joel Embiid is going to give. Joel Embiid is my MVP pick this year, actually. He's going to be a stud. He's going to give his 29 and 12, 2 blocks, or whatever the case may be. Health is most important for Joel Embiid because we know who's giving the numbers. Now, the 76ers, how focused are you guys? In training camp, media day, they've been saying all the right things. The chemistry looks on point. Camaraderie looks on point. Then they had the quotable of media day. Tyrese Maxey, I believe, said that Doc Rivers told the team it's a we season, not a me season. And I think that's very important for the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think that mentality and that psyche, that if they adopt that psyche, that's really what's going to propel them this season, because they look very in sync, they look very in tune, and they don't really have a lot of weaknesses on that team, man. If they stay together, they play well, sky's the limit for the 76ers this season, and I think they're going to be excellent throughout the whole season. I think they're going to be number 1 seed in the East. And I think they really have a chance to really go deep in the playoffs this year. So we'll see how they ingratiate their roster going forward. So I mean, I got big hopes for the 76ers, and I think they're going to do well. Moving on. The Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks. My burning question for the Milwaukee Bucks is, can they upgrade at shooting guard? Right? So I'm looking at their roster. Obviously, we know Chris Middleton is going to be out for, they said about a month or so. I think it may be a little bit over a month, but he's not going to be available for the opening of the season. So because of that, there's going to be a little bit of hole at the 2 guard. They have Grayson Allen. They picked up Joe Ingles this season. Drew Holiday is obviously there. Javon Carter is obviously there. But other than Drew Holiday, every other guard on that Milwaukee Bucks team is a question mark, in my opinion. Any other guard on that roster other than Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton can be upgraded. Now, I think I wouldn't even say Achilles heel, but I would say the only thing that I would say the Bucks can improve on is having another playmaking guard who can score and get his own basket, and who can, most importantly, isolate, especially in the playoffs, because Drew Holiday is a great player, but he's not really an isolation player that much. Chris Middleton, yes and no, because he's great in the mid-range. He can definitely score on you. He can definitely score in isolation, but I wouldn't say that's really his go-to. Giannis, he's not really an isolation player. He's just a dominant player and does everything that you need him to do. So they can really upgrade in the isolating department and getting buckets department, I think, for the Milwaukee Bucks. So to me, I think they can upgrade at the shooting guard position. And that's where I think they can come together and really see them upgrade for a deep playoff run. So Giannis will be Giannis. I don't really have to say anything about him. We know he's going to be a monster. Another great year, great scoring year, great rebounding year. Another monster season for him incoming. So Bucks, stay the course. Maybe they can upgrade at that 2 guard spot, and we'll see what they got going on for the playoffs. Next up, the Boston Celtics. My burning question for the Celtics is, will the adversity affect their psyche? Now, Boston Celtics have one of those teams that have a lot going on going in to the season. Obviously, we know about the Ime Udoka situation. Robert Williams, Time Lord, is going to be out probably until February. Gallinari is out for damn near the whole year. They have a couple of questions on their roster that they didn't think that they would have going into the season. And now the start of this season looks a little bit up in the air. So now, if you remember how the Celtics rolled last year and the year before that, they're a team who tend to start their seasons kind of slow. So they usually get to a slowish kind of start. They never start at the 1 or 2 seed. They usually around 4, 5, 6. I remember last year towards the beginning of the season, at one point they were at the 7th or 8th seed or something like that, and really questioning if they were going to make the postseason. Then obviously we know Jaylen Brown had the famous quote, said the energy is about to shift. And the energy shifted, and then they ended up excelling and being the best team basically in the league from January on. So that type of season, they can't rely on this year, because they're no secret. They're not, sneaking up on anybody basically in the NBA. So everybody's going to have the Celtics circled on their roster because they went circled on their schedule, because they went to the finals last year. So the team that went to the finals last year is obviously going to be circled. So we're going to see what's going to happen with them. Obviously, Brogdon is a great pickup for them, a starting caliber guard coming off the bench. We're going to see how he's ingratiated into the roster. Tatum and Brown, they struggled with turnovers in the finals, so having Brogdon there is going to help out with that. They picked up Blake Griffin to somewhat bolster that front court, but that's one of their issues. They're too small at the center spot. Al Horford, Blake Griffin, Grant Williams, a.k.a. Shiggy Show. I don't know who they're going to rely on full-time at the 5 for the Celtics. I'm not going to lie to you. So because of that, because there's no Time Lord, I think that's important. And I think their defense is going to take a slight regression this season. Last year, they were the number 1 defensive team in the league. I said in my previous episode that I thought Memphis could be the number 1 defensive team in the league and usurp Boston this season, because I think they're going to take a step back because of their rim protection. I think perimeter defense is still going to be stout. Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, even Al Horford could always hold his own on the defensive end. But I don't think that the Celtics are doing themselves a great service by relying so much on Al Horford. And it's really because of necessity. But I think they should maybe look into acquiring a shot blocking, rim running, lob threat type of center, just like Tom Lord, to supplement that production until he comes back. So the Celtics got some questions, a lot of questions that need answers, and also on their head coach as well. Can he handle the rigors of an NBA season? Joe Mazzulla, we're going to see how he handles the rigors of an NBA season. And what is the team going to be like when the Udoka details really come out, like when it's publicly known? That's also, they basically are going to have to relive all of that when the news does come out again. So we'll see how they handle that moving forward. The Brooklyn Nets. Gotta bring these fellas out, man. My burning question for the Brooklyn Nets is, where is the trust? Do you guys trust each other on this team? Does anybody trust each other on this team? Now, the two people who maybe trust each other the most, KD and Kyrie, their relationship may be a little bit, not fractured, but, maybe dialed back a little bit, because both of them were looking to move elsewhere in different places this summer. So because of that, that's still in their head. So now they're thinking by the end of the season, most likely we're going to break apart, most likely, depending on how the season ends. So, and you never know how the season's going to end. You never know, an injury can dictate wherever. So their end of the season is a question mark, and their future is a question mark. KD, we know we can easily ask out again. He already showed them that he can do that. Kyrie, we know he's looking for a contract extension, his last big payday, and it doesn't look like the Nets want to give it to him. So we know he's looking at the Lakers and other teams. So we'll see where their heart is this season. We know that they want to win. I'm not saying that they don't want to win, because they definitely want to win to shut everybody up. But winning at what cost? We're going to see, because in order to win, you have to have trust. And when you have to have trust, it has to come from everybody in the organization. And speaking of trust, do they trust the coach? Do the Nets trust Steve Nash? I don't trust Steve Nash. I doubt you trust Steve Nash. I don't know if these fellas trust Steve Nash on the floor to make the right decision in crucial moments. Playoff time, fourth quarters, 5 minutes to go, 2 minutes left, end of game shots. I don't know if Nash has it in him to really lead this team in an X's and O's kind of way. And also from a motivational standpoint, is he that guy to really yell at KD, yell at Kyrie, yell at Ben Simmons when he's not shooting? Is he that guy to do that? We'll see. Speaking of Ben Simmons, the hottest of hot questions going into the season. What is he going to produce? Man, he's probably the wild card of the season, what Ben Simmons is going to produce. He looked decent in the preseason, but not great. He looked solid, but I'm not jumping out of my seat for what I saw from Ben Simmons. He still can't shoot free throws. He still went like 1 for 6, 1 for 7 or something like that from the free throw line. So it wasn't great. Typical Ben Simmons stuff, struggling from the line. He didn't look over aggressive to me. He didn't look like he was really looking for his shot. He didn't look like he was trying to put foot on necks in the preseason, but it is the preseason, so I'm going to chill a little bit. I'm going to just wait for the season to start before I start critiquing people that hard. So, but I like what he has the potential to bring to the table on this team. I'll tell you that much. Him, KD, and Kyrie playing with Clax, Harris, when he comes back, a lot of those guys, they have the potential to be a really great team if everybody plays their role. So we're going to see what type of mindset Ben Simmons is on going into the season, if he's going to be a scoring threat this year, because that's what he needs to be. 100% he needs to be a scoring threat from start to finish. He needs to be a scoring threat. So we'll see how Ben Simmons goes moving forward. And well, I don't know, man. The Mets, the Nets. I said the Mets. Look at that. The Nets, they are a wild card of the season, man. So we're going to see how they rock out. Moving on. Miami Heat. My burning question for them this season. Are the Miami Heat stale? Tough question for me because their core has been together for a couple of years now. I don't like that they let PJ Tucker go this offseason. Not that they let him go. Basically, the 76ers just paid him, and the Miami Heat wasn't willing to pay that money. But do they have enough to take that next step? Hero, he got his money. He wants to start this year. He's going to be starting. We're going to see how he performs in the starting role. He did great in the bench role last year when I believe he won 6th Man of the Year. Yeah. So he has to take that next leap. He averaged 20 off the bench, so he's still going to average, and he's still going to average 20 this year. But what are your defensive stats going to look like? How are you going to be on the defensive side of the ball? That's where his increased effort needs to be. That's where his increased focus needs to be, because he's the wild card of the Heat, hot Tyler Hero, and how much better he gets going into the season. Bam is going to do his thing. Jimmy's going to do his thing. PJ Tucker's obviously missing. They got Caleb Martin slotting into that spot. So we'll see if he can take over what PJ brought to the table. So the Heat are an interesting team too as well. They could be at the top or they could be at mid-pack of the conference. We don't know. Another team I'm looking at, the Atlanta Hawks. My burning question for the Atlanta Hawks is DeJounte Murray and Trae Young a top 3 backcourt in the NBA this season? Are they? Top 3. And now it's tough to say because, you know, they got a lot of backcourts. You got Phoenix, you got the Grizzlies, you got John Bain, you got Stephen Clay, you got Lillard, Simons, you got, depending if you want to consider Ben Simmons in the backcourt or not, you could do Ben Simmons, Kyrie, Melton Harden, Maxey Harden, who else? Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Derek White. There's a lot of backcourts you can choose from. So, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell. Look at me. I'm talking about them next. Is Trae Young and DeJounte Murray a top 3 or a top 5 backcourt in the NBA? That to me is my burning question for them, because I think the Atlanta Hawks are probably the most underrated team going into the season. I think they have the potential to be a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference if they really are healthy, if they really play their cards right, because their team is stacked, in my opinion. Trae Young, one of the best point guards in the league. DeJounte Murray, all-star last year. I think he's going to play great next to him. DeAndre Hunter is an excellent wing defender. John Collins, they still have excellent. Clint Capella, Okongwu, Bogdanovich coming off the bench. AJ Griffin. They got a couple of pieces over there. They're trying to get Jay Crowder. Who else they picked up? Kaminsky. They got the Holiday brothers over there. They have a couple of pieces, I think, that are really hungry to prove themselves this year. And I think that's what's going to work well for the Atlanta Hawks. And I love what they're putting together right now. I love what they got going on in Atlanta. And I have high hopes for them going into the season. And I think they're going to be excellent. But we'll see how they rock out and how they look. Because it's going to be, injury dependent, of course. So we'll see. Another team who I think is in the same realm as the Hawks are the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, I have a couple of burning questions for them, but one that I thought of the most is, how happy are you to be here? And when I say that, I'm saying that because last year we know the Cavs, they just missed the postseason, but now acquiring Spider Mitchell, their expectations have increased. Now they have to make the postseason. There's no play-in for them. They have to make the postseason. And since they have to make the postseason, I'm going to assume that they're going to make the postseason. And by assuming that, when they make the postseason, are you just happy to be there? Or are you trying to make some noise? Now look at this roster. They have the potential to make some noise. Darius Garland, Spider Mitchell, Amir LeVert, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Okoro. They got some pieces there. If they really put their minds to it, they can make some noise in the East. You know what I'm saying? They're very talented. They have a very talented roster, and they have a lot of things going for them. Garland and Spider could both get you 20 a night. Mobley and Allen could both do great. LeVert could get you 20. What are the Cavs going to give us? I like what they got. I like what they're putting on the floor, and a lot of people are putting stock in them too. So we'll see how the Cavs really are meshing all of these pieces together, because they're another wild card in the East, and I think they're actually going to do well. So we're going to see how they rock out also. Moving on, another Eastern Conference team not even on my radar, on the preview, the Toronto Raptors. What's going on over there in the 6 right now? My burning question for the Toronto Raptors is, do they need a true center to win a title or to even be a championship contender? You looking at Toronto's Raptors right now. I said on Twitter the other day, they have a disgusting amount of wings. A disgusting amount. So disgusting that it's lovely. Too many guys they have over there over 6'8", 6'9". They got Scotty Barnes, Siakam, OG Anunoby. Who else they got? Precious Achiuwa, Chris Boucher, Gary Trent, Fred VanVleet. They got some pieces over there. Birch. They got some pieces over there in Toronto. And one of the best coaches in the NBA, Nick Nurse. One of the best defensive coaches in the NBA, Nick Nurse. Versatility on that team. The Raptors, do they need a center, though? Because right now, who they're starting at center is Pascal Siakam. Now, he's not a center, and you saw what happened to them in the playoffs last year. Who did they run into? Joel Embiid. The East, there's a couple of big boys over there. Embiid. You can even go Ben Simmons, Kyrie, slightly. Giannis. They got some big boys over there in the East, man. So, do they need a center? Do they have to trade for a center this year? They can easily flip one of those wings and turn them into a center that can vote them and have them playing better in the paint. But if they rather keep their versatility, because that's what they have over pretty much every other roster in the NBA, that they have a plethora of rings that no other team has, we'll see. So I'm looking forward to see what's going on in 6, and I think they're going to be a playoff contending team. Now, we know the playoffs are going to be sticky because there's going to be 10 teams vying for the playoffs, but only 8 spots. Raptors is definitely going to be one of them, but where they land is going to be important right here. Moving on. Chicago Bulls in the East. My burning question for them, is there enough defense on this roster to go to the next level? Now, they're getting Patrick Williams back. Lonzo Ball is still out. Ayo's starting for him. Caruso is going to have to play an increased role. They picked up Dragon. They picked up Drummond. Do they have enough defense on this roster? So they're relying a lot on Patrick Williams to really solidify that power forward spot for the Chicago Bulls. DeMar DeRozan playing power forward was nice, but it wasn't great defensively. Levine playing the 3 was not good defensively. He played more of the 2. You had Caruso on there. He's great at the defensive end. But they need to really balance out that roster. And the only way they can balance out that roster is if Patrick Williams really solidifies himself and steps into that power forward role and become a defensive ace in that power forward role. He's going to be important. We're going to see how he's going to rock out. He has to take a leap forward this year because he was injured a lot last year. So he's going to be very important for them. And who's going to win that battle of Vucevic and Drummond? Because Drummond doesn't view himself as a bench player. He views himself as a starter. So he's going to be gunning for that spot for Vooch. And if he starts battling on the boards, beasting on the boards, he might be forced into that. But then you have 2 centers in Drummond and Vooch who really can't guard on a perimeter. So that's going to be a problem come playoff time and maybe during a regular season. We'll see. And also a burning question for them, can DeMar DeRozan replicate that MVP type season? He had a phenomenal year last year. Can he replicate that? We know he can score, but the leadership was there. Timely buckets was there. Really taking that team on his back was there. So we'll see if DeMar DeRozan can really replicate that year. And if Zach LaVine can also replicate his great year, because he had a great scoring year also as well. He just got hurt towards the end of the year. Those 2 guys have to be on their A game in order for the Bulls to really progress this season. So we're going to see how the Bulls rock out and if they can overcome the Lonzo Ball injury. That's going to be important for them. So the Bulls got my eye on you fellas. Another Eastern Conference team that I'm going to. You know I got to talk about these Knicks. I'm ready for these fellas, right? The Knicks, my burning question for the Knicks going into this season is, what is your identity? 2 years ago, you hung your hat on being a stingy defensive team. That's how you got to the playoffs. That's how you got to the first round. That was your calling card. Last year, the Knicks completely regressed when it came to defense. They didn't have the same hunger, the same passion. They weren't playing with the same intensity. Yes, they had some injuries, but a lot of teams have injuries. They didn't have the same passion on the defensive end last year. So can they get back their defensive mojo this year, the New York Knicks? And also, is Tibbs' voice becoming stale in that locker room? Because maybe that was the reason for the defensive regression last year. We saw a lot of people were calling for Tibbs' head. You know, I was tight also when he benched Kemba Walker early in the year. It really pissed me off, and I thought it was unacceptable for a veteran coach to really bench a veteran player like that in that fashion. So we're going to see if the Knicks have a renewed interest in the defensive end this season, because that's the only reason they had any success 2 years ago. They're not an offensive juggernaut, so they need to be a defensive ace as a team. So we're going to see, and obviously their summer acquisitions help that. Picking up Jalen Brunson, I think he was an excellent pickup for them. I talked about it before in a couple episodes. A lot of people saying that they overpaid, but you have to overpay if you're stealing a player from another team that's better than yours. I kept saying that. So they had to overpay for Jalen Brunson. And what he's going to bring to the table, I think he's going to really justify that contract that he got from the Knicks, because I think he's going to get about 17 points, 7 assists, play solid defense, really be a steady, calming, solidifying presence at that point guard spot that they need. And with him being there, one of the most important things with Jalen Brunson being at the point guard spot is that it means less Julius Randle. Less Julius Randle, less ball handling from him, less shooting from him, less decision making from Julius Randle. And to me, that means a better Knicks team going forward this season. And then my last burning question for the Knicks is, are y'all finally ready to give RJ the keys? Give him the keys. Officially. The offense needs to run through him and Jalen Brunson. I know Randall is making the money. I don't care. He's going to have to take a little bit of a step back in order for the team to progress right here. You have other pieces on the roster you need to develop. Obi Toppin needs to develop. Eventually, I don't feel like Julius Randle is in the Knicks' long-term plans anyway. So if he's not in your long-term plans, you're going to have to slowly, I won't go so far to say phase him out, but you got to dial back a little bit of his usage. You got to dial back what you're asking him to give you, because you don't want to rely on him, because you tried that 1 year and it didn't work out when you relied on Julius Randle. So are the Knicks ready to shock the world? That's what RJ Barrett said, that the Knicks are ready. So I don't know if they are ready, but we'll see. They have an interesting year, and we're going to see how they develop a lot of those young guys as well. Grimes, Quickly, Hartenstein, they got a few pieces there that need to develop, so we'll see. But Knicks, no excuses this year. Try to get into the playoffs. 20 years, 5 playoff appearances, 1 season victory, 1 series victory. I'm going to leave it on that. Moving on, in the East, Charlotte Hornets. Now, they're an interesting team because they got a lot of turmoil going on. And because they got a lot of turmoil, that's why my burning question for the Hornets is, what are we playing for? What are these guys playing for? Are they trying to get into the playoffs? What's happening right now? LaMelo is hurt. Bridges is going through legal trouble. Bouknight is going through legal trouble. Montrez was there in the summer. He went through legal trouble. Now he's out. What are these guys playing for right now? I don't know. Their roster is a bunch of pieces that don't fit right now. PJ Washington is looking for an extension. I don't think he's going to get it. And then most importantly, they cut Jello. Couldn't even keep Jello. You couldn't even keep LaMelo's brother on the roster, which means, LaMelo, you don't have pull like that. Why you couldn't tell MJ to keep your brother on the roster? What are you guys playing for that they couldn't find a spot for Jello in that roster? That to me is ridiculous. So that means Michael Jordan might be in evaluation mode for this Hornets squad, and everybody might be up on the chopping block. LaMelo, you need to be important this year and really try to go for an All-NBA spot. It might be a stats year for you, brother, because I don't know about the playoffs for these Hornets. Moving on, the Washington Wizards. My burning question for them is to tank or not to tank. They have a team full of spare parts on the Washington Wizards. Couple of pieces that can be interesting. Couple of pieces that can produce. But are they going to produce together? Monte Morris, Bradley Beal, Will Barton, Hachimura, Kuzma, Porzingis, Gafford. A bunch of players that can put some numbers up but can't produce. But what is that I just named? What is that gumbo that I just put together right there? That doesn't sound like a playoff team. Definitely ain't no damn championship team. Is it a playoff team? Maybe. By the grace, it might be a playoff team, but that team looks like to me a bunch of spare parts. So they need to figure out their identity as well and see who they're keeping going forward. Moving on, the Orlando Magic. They're another interesting team, and I'm gonna have an episode on them coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm gonna bring my man Teddy D on. We're gonna have a nice conversation about the Magic because they're intriguing. Their burning question for me is who to keep and who not to keep. They got a bunch of young players on this roster who can produce, but they need a few veterans on that roster to put all of those young guys in their proper position. They got obviously had the number one pick, Paolo Banchero coming in now. He's probably leading the Rookie of the Year race, probably going into the season, the early preseason favorite. Who else they got? Wagner, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Wendell Carter, Jonathan Isaac. Now it's time to sit through all that talent and see what works. Which one of these players do you want to keep moving forward? Because they have too many forwards, too many long forwards on that team, and you're going to have to break that up a little bit and also come up with an identity also as well. They're actually a very fun team to watch. I watched a lot of their games last season. I love their guards that they have. Markelle Fultz, also I didn't even mention him. He's injured, but he should be back soon. They have a bunch of guards and a bunch of people that they can really do something with. They got some pieces over there in Orlando, so we're going to see how they rock out and what they're doing going forward, or if they're even going to try to tank. I think they should try to get some wins, but we'll see. The Detroit Pistons. Burning question for them is, what are my building blocks? Got Cade Cunningham, Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren. They got a bunch of guys over there, a bunch of young guys. They picked up Bogdanovich, a bunch of young guys who also can produce, but you have to produce wins, not just stats. So these young guys can play hard all they want. I know they trying to figure out what they're going to do, but the Pistons also need to figure out who their building blocks are for the future. Not who are rotational players. Who are the building blocks? That they can use moving forward into the rest of the season, because there is going to be a point in time where they are in free agency and they need to go acquire a veteran while they have some money. So to pair with those young guys. So we're going to see what they do moving forward. It's probably tanking for them too, but they still need to do some evaluation amidst the tanking. Last but not least, the Indiana Pacers. My burning question for them, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Who are you? Who are the Indiana Pacers right now? I don't know. They have young pieces and some pieces they don't want. Halliburton, we know they're giving him the keys. Buddy Hield, they don't want there. Miles Turner, they don't want there. Who else is on that roster? They get Brissett is there. Jalen Smith is there. They have a couple of pieces that they're not too sure about on the Indiana Pacers team. So they also have to figure out if they want to tank or not, or if they want to see who they are keeping going forward as a major building block for this team. So the Pacers have a bunch of questions that need answers also as well. And they're probably going to be in the tanking phase, or they might be a team that helps out contending teams toward the deadline because they're trying to tank. Trading a Buddy Hield, trading a Miles Turner. So we'll see what they're going to be doing going forward. And the East, man, like I said, they're going to be a battle too. They have about a good 8 to 10 teams that are really in playoff contention. That's really going to be battling it out. So the Eastern Conference is going to be sticky also as well. And those are pretty much my burning questions that I'm looking forward to in each Eastern Conference team. And yeah, they're going to be very interesting to watch also as well. And it's going to get sticky, man. So make sure everybody, you guys are paying attention to what's going on in the Eastern Conference also as well. Give me your thoughts. Give me your predictions of how you see the Eastern Conference standings going, as well as the Western Conference standings. Make sure you write me on Twitter, IG, Facebook, all of that good stuff. Yeah, so family, I appreciate you, man, joining me once again for another episode, keeping it locked in with me. As always, like I said, for each and every episode, each and every journey, because every episode is a new journey. Every episode is something new going on. Eastern Conference Finals preview. Get ready for the season to start. It's about to be crazy. It's about to be brazy. And yeah, make sure you guys rock out on the rest of this episode. And make sure you hit me up, man. Get your merch, as I always say before. This is episode 188 or 189, excuse me. And we out. Yeah.